Hello, welcome to my series about all Chopin's music. I've just played for you the Nocturne in G minor, Opus 37 number 1, about which we are going to talk today. What we've just heard is a very sad, heartbreaking music. A melody which talks, a melody which has something to say, even a kind of recitative or something like that. Definitely not an opera aria, and not a song about love, like Nocturne should be, as we know. I played for you the whole just so that we have the general impression. I'm sure that most of you know this piece from before, but of course now we go into deeper into the structure and the analysis of the music. What we've heard is actually very clear. A-B-A structure, when part A is dramatically sad, part B is a prayer. Because I'm sure you felt like in the church, listening to organ, chorale. So that's the idea of the piece. And the whole piece ends in a bright color. This is on the surface, of course. But now the question, why Chopin again decided to write music full of żal, a sorrow. Of course he was missing his country, of course. But usually when he was missing his country, he wrote mazurkas. Here he is expressing something even more than only missing his country. This is another nocturne, which is a witness of Chopin's problems, of Chopin's life when he composed the piece. The piece was composed just before leaving to Mallorca. We don't know exactly when, because Chopin never put the date when he started composing. But he was very careful with putting the numbers, opus numbers. So we can assume that this nocturne was composed after the second sonata. I mean, this is a very important thing to know, because second sonata, you know, is something very heavy and written in probably the worst time of Chopin's life. I talked about it many months ago. If you didn't watch my video about sonata number 2, I strongly recommend you to do so. There are 4 videos about each movement. You can find them on YouTube as well. And here we have a very sad music. But what is it that makes this so sad? There are many things. First of all, the first melody that we hear is going down. You may laugh, but that's actually true. When the melody goes down, it always creates a kind of sadness or the energy going down. Right? This is very simple. When the composer wants to write something about suffering, we can be almost sure that the melody will go down. The second very important thing is that we don't have a long phrase. Do you remember other nocturnos? And so on and so on and so on. Long, beautiful phrase, an opera aria, and so on. Here, No, we have somebody who is crying. Somebody who is crying with tears and who can't say a sentence because his voice got stuck. The end. And then starts again. Again, end. Again, end. So that's also what makes this music so heartbreaking. The third thing, the harmony. In the moment when we have here, I mean in the melody, we have this the semitone, we have the very harsh interval. At the same time, we have the diminished chord in the left hand, which always brings the feeling of suffering. We almost want to cry when we hear this. That's why Chopin wrote it. Again. And last but not least, the left hand. Is it a nocturne accompaniment? I think it's more like a march. The left hand is walking. This is the first time when Chopin is doing like this kind of accompaniment. There will be more in nocturnes. In nocturnes, we will have the same kind of idea of the left hand, and also in this nocturne in F minor. I probably also know it by heart, but so as we can see, whenever Chopin decided to write an accompaniment like this is always a heavy music. I mean, emotionally heavy, emotionally very depressing, and very, very sad. So now I analyzed for you all the aspects and all the things that makes this music very sad. Let's see how this is written when it comes to the structure. As I said, very short statements. Then the answer. Answer is a little optimistic. And again, the same thing, but now Chopin writes here immediately forte. I don't know if you remember when I played for you this nocturne for the first time in its entirety. Maybe you were a little shocked by some moments when I played even almost aggressively, or at least very loud. This is not my interpretation. This is what Chopin wrote in the score. Here we have forte. Later we will have even forte fortissimo. So this is not a very quiet nocturne to be played piano. Only at the beginning, but here we have screaming. Here Chopin even writes accents. I must show you this because it's very interesting. these 4 signs, they mean accents on every single note. That means that every single note is important. Even the syllab, every single syllab. So here with the forte, it sounds like this. And then the end. And then we have the second phrase, which starts with the trill and then goes up, but chromatically, so still with a tension, and is full of syncopated notes. What are syncopated notes? These are notes that comes too early, as I call them. They are too early. We expect them later. Should be like this. But it's like this. Not together with the left hand. Why composer writes something like this? Why does he write something like this? Because to give the impression of inquietness, of some state of inquietness. So here, again, and now here we come to the most touching moment. When we have a dialogue, in fact. Well, I try to achieve here a dialogue because this is a fight. I mean, of course, this is a spiritual fight, musical fight of 2 motifs. I mean, one motif that is one time is saying that everything will be all right, and then somebody is answering that no, nothing will be all right. We are done. We are finished. It's over. I'm depressed. How Chopin achieves something like this? By using only 3 notes that goes up, or the pessimistic version that goes down. When I do the dialogue, which I love to do in this moment, just to show you this, how it really, in my opinion, is, I play the second, the depressing voice in the bass. Just listen. So she, well, actually, sorry, she was depressed. I'm sorry, I start to be a little tired. She was depressed. She's depressed. Then he goes up. Then he goes up. Okay, but of course it's not written like this. So now let's play the original version. Fortissimo and accents. So I think it should be played like this. I mean, Chopin, you know, don't be mistaken, but Chopin was not always like a weak, sensitive and very delicate man, especially when he wrote music. And he wrote in the score what he wanted. He never exaggerated, so when he writes forte fortissimo, he really meant forte fortissimo. And it meant that he was full of passion and energy, and he wanted to express something important. Franz Schubert, for instance, was the opposite. When he loved some part and wanted to express something important, he wrote sotto voce or 3 piano or 2 piano or 3 piano. Very, very, very silent. That's the difference. So, in fact, nothing is changing later. We have these two melodies, the syncopated melody and the first sad melody in the first part A, and then, as you've heard already, we have the chorale. So we have some Polish musicologist wrote that this sounds like a church organ in a very small countryside wooden church. Well, I have a book about Chopin. It has 4 volumes. Ferdinand Hessig is the author, but I have a Polish version. And in this Polish version here, there is a very long poetic description of this nocturne. But it's so it's so poetic, and so probably it's so difficult for me to translate, but I can try. As you know, I try not to use too many images which are not connected with the music to some pieces. But this description, believe me, I mean, I have mixed feelings, because somebody definitely was in love with this nocturne, and he wrote somebody, I mean, exactly, it's Strzelecki was his name. In 1901, he wrote a long description of this nocturne, and he compared it to some image. And this description is more a description of a beautiful painting than of the piece of music. Well, I try, but if I will not be able to do, I have to give up, sorry. Okay. This nocturne, G minor, is waking up in our soul an image of a very peaceful full moon night. Silver blue light is coming, and we see it in the field full of oh my god, there is the in Poland we have a lot of this is it the name is corn? No, it's not a corn. Let me check it. I must do it. Sorry, I'm not prepared for this. But just thanks God we have now very fast a cereal. It's called a cereal or grain. Okay, cereal or grain. The field of grain. At night, full moon night. And the trees. And the lakes. And this, this Chopin tree, we call them. The tree with a lot of, I don't know the name. Weeping willow? A willow, yes. Oh my god, this is definitely too much for me. This willow is like a very little creatures. There is a fog among them. And we can also see some graves. Some lonely graves. And the stars on the dark above, dark heaven. And then suddenly this nature starts its prayer, writes Strzelecki. So in his opinion, the prayer that we hear is the prayer of the nature. I'm not going to read more because probably you will have enough. But I just want to tell you how much a piece of music by Chopin actually can inspire people to write something like this. For 99% Chopin didn't think about it, but we can assume that maybe he was missing his country when he wrote this piece of music. We can also be almost sure that he had how to say, when he was thinking about Poland, he was missing his parents, his family. When he was young, he was going to church with them every Sunday. And he played church organ in Warsaw. For some time, he replaced some organists. So then when he left to Paris, he changed. He stopped this habit. Then, and this is the time when this Nocturne was written, when he got into relationship with Georges Sand, then he was definitely doing something that when he was young was not allowed, if we can say so. So what did he had? We can imagine how he felt. He felt that he's doing something wrong, but on the other hand, he wanted to do so. He didn't want to write to his parents about all this. It was a very difficult time for him. And also he lost hope for having a normal family and normal life as he wanted when he was very young. All this, I think, all these feelings that we can imagine are in this Nocturne. And then this part is just thinking or praying or thinking about the prayer and the times in Warsaw. Maybe some confession. I can imagine when Chopin, when he was composing it, he was playing it. When he was playing it, he must have felt something inside. Definitely, yes. We know he was a sensitive man. This whole choral ends in a very touching way, because we have one like a question or ask to God. Then we wait for the answer. Then again. Then again. This is beautifully harmonized. And again. And then we go back to the beginning. I don't see any hope in this melody, I must tell you. So sad. But at the end we have the optimism, because everything ends in G major. And you know what I love to do? Without the silence, I love to start the next nocturne in this opus, which is G major, because it starts from the same notes. Yeah, such a beauty. I can't play it more because this will be in the next episode. So I'm just making the tension higher. I fire up. Anyway, yes, I think Chopin glued these two nocturnes together. He connected them by ending the G minor nocturne in the major key. One last thing, very important, very interesting. Do you remember the Shakespearean nocturne about Hamlet? It was also written in G minor. And there are two things in common. First is that there is also a chorale in the middle. Do you remember? second similarity is that it also ends in major. So also in G major. So did Chopin take some inspiration or not? But it's actually very interesting just to know. So well, that's all for tonight. Thank you for being with me in this long project of mine. And you're welcome to watch my oldest videos about all the mazurkas and all the balladas and all the waltzes and all the scherzos and all the sonatas and all the polonaises and the berces and the barcarolle. Is it all? I think so. And now we already have half of the nocturnes, I think, done. So we keep going. Wonderful. Thank you very much, and see you again soon to analyze this beauty that I played a little bit for you. Bye bye.